Hi, VJ.
Hello, how are you, Ambika?
It's so great to be here and spend some time with you. And what I really want to talk about today is ways that we can help people overcome stress and get better, deeper, longer, more rejuvenative sleep. Because as you know, I've just come out with a course called End Sleep Envy, but there's only so much I could put in it. And the interesting thing is when I went to poll people who proclaim that they're insomniacs to me, I asked them, how much time can you spend each day if I'm teaching you something or giving you tools? And guess how many minutes a day they said they could spend on this?
5 minutes.
Two.
Two.
I thought, wow, that's going to be challenging. Now I did, I thought five. I figured they would say five. It was
that is why they are insomniacs because they got too much stimuli coming into the brain with the society we are living in. In Ayurveda, we call it vata aggravating society. If you have watched the uh, Netflix movie called Social Dilemma,
mm,
that shows how we are being manipulated by the social media who want our attention. They're willing to give us everything free as long as they can get our attention. So they want time
mm,
from us in exchange for free Google and free Facebook and free everything. There is a cost to it that they want our attention.
mm,
And it becomes an addiction when we keep giving them attention. They want more and more and more, so they can show you their ads in that period when you're listening to them. So we are exchanging time with free stuff, and you have to decide whether time is more important or free stuff is more important.
that's an incredibly great point because time is pretty much truthfully what we've got in these bodies, you know? What I want us to be able to share right now with anybody watching or listening are ideas that can help them to relax, to calm down through the different tools that you and I share with the world. One of the main things for me that I placed into the course because I feel that it's so important is breathing. And I feel that that's the part of yoga that kind of gets pushed to the side a lot. I mean, sure, we see people with breathing courses and workshops, but how many of us are actually practicing that every day? Even the yogis, you know? And then just people that have never experienced a yoga class or a meditation session or my goodness, a pranayama class or session, pranayama being the breathing techniques, the exercises of yoga. And how many people are missing out on this? And then I feel like this is really important. And how ironic, that this pandemic that we're all handling and living under is breath and lung related. I find the irony in life quite often, and right now it's challenging. So I'm curious, from Ayurveda, what are some tools and tricks, some simple things that people can do to find calm and quiet down the crazy waves in the mind?
So let's start with what is sleep. Sleep is a naturally occurring state of mind. It is characterized by altered consciousness where there are inhibited sensory stimuli, sensory activity, and reduced muscle activity and inhibition of all voluntary muscles. That is sleep. It is a state of consciousness. I want to bring that up because we have multiple stages of consciousness. Awake is only one aspect of consciousness, but sleep is another state of consciousness. And then when we become super conscious, then we have another state of consciousness, the enlightened state of consciousness, the all those universal state of consciousness. So there are multiple states. Sleep is essential for the physical body and the mind. I always say physical body and mind are one unit. They are not separate from each other. In modern medicine, we like to separate the two, but in Ayurveda, we say there is only one unit, mind body. And of course, we attach spirit also to that. But right here, we are talking of mind body unit. It is an essential state of consciousness for mind body to rejuvenate itself. That is the purpose of sleep. That means all the activity we have done during the day, during the awake time, we have brought a lot of sensory stimuli into the body. Our senses are tired from bringing all the sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, emotions. So, this is a built in system of consciousness where our body automatically goes into slumber and rejuvenates itself. So, sleep is an essential part of living the mind body unit. Ayurveda plays so much importance to it. It says that there are three pillars of life: lifestyle, diet, and sleep. So, sleep is considered a very important pillar. You cannot stand on two pillars, you have to have the pillar of sleep. So, said that, uh, I will jump right into the various stages of sleep according to Ayurveda. I mean, anybody can Google and find out what are the modern medicine concepts of sleep, which is REM sleep and non REM sleep and all those.
Deep sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. So here we talk about two separate phases of sleep. One is from around 10 o'clock in the evening to 2 o'clock in the morning, which is a pitta uh, stage, pitta period of sleep. During that phase, our Agni, which is a digestive fire to digest food, and the sensory uh, inputs we bring into the body, are taken to the cells within the body where we need these nutrients to produce energy and waste products. That process of assimilation of nutrients occurs between 10 and 2 in the night. That is why all the agnis are active inside the cell, but not in the gastrointestinal tract. But important thing is that if you do not go to sleep before 10, then that agnis which are supposed to be in the cell will come in the gastrointestinal tract and you will suddenly become hungry. So if you have noticed that if you have a period between 9 and 10 when you start yawning and you go into a little slumber, and if you don't listen and you're awake at 10:15, now you got a second wing. And now you can't go to sleep because now you're hungry, you go to the kitchen and you're searching for leftovers and pizza. So all that is because you slept in the period which is a rejuvenative period. Why does the body need to form energy? is to is another way of saying that if our body is continuously changing. Millions of cells are being rebuilt or uh, copied into new cells in the night
Mhm.
between 10 and 4. That is what we need, new cells every day. That is rejuvenation. That is reincarnation, actually. Every day we are reincarnated in the middle of the night. So between 10 and 2 is the period when we we are being rejuvenated. Okay. And between that period, there is a small period, about 20 to 30 minutes, which is called Turiya state. Turiya. Turiya state is the state of consciousness in which there is no physical body, there is no mental body, and you are tuned to spirit, your soul.
Mm. So I think we could almost say that Toria is like deep sleep. No,
Is
because that medically speaking, that's what we think of deep sleep as.
yeah,
And we see it in slightly different cycles.
it is the meditation at that time which yogis experienced that, and they said, can I do the same thing? That feeling of utter pleasure is,
Mm.
can I do it when I'm awake? And that's how they came up with the meditative practices.
Right, right. Because I mean, for me, having studied and learned meditation at a very early age,
Mhm.
and you too, it becoming a sanctuary very early on in life and natural part of our nature, we equivocate the idea of yoga as meditation, and that bunched together is samadhi, which is the explanation of the sensations that you were just expressing in Toria. And I think it gets so confused because the idea of yoga has become an exercise program, which is valid. It's a valid exercise program, but there's so much more to it, and meditation being such an important part. And then just needing ways, we modern human beings having to live with all this stimuli, we need help. We need help getting relaxation. So here's something really interesting that I'd like you to expand on. So uh, I noticed when I was polling my people who needed sleep and self-proclaimed insomniacs, I asked them, which is it? Are you having trouble falling asleep, getting to sleep in the evening at the end of your day, or are you awakening, and if so, when? And they say between 2 and 5 a.m. So we know that that next phase comes at 2 a.m. And uh I have to admit, I'm a light sleeper. If I'm going to wake up, it's going to be around that 2 3 a.m. time. So what is that next period, VJ, and why does that wake us up?
Yeah. So next period is the vata period. So let me explain to you. Pitta period is when there is a active metabolism going on. Vata period, Vata's main function is removal, movement. So during that time, we see dreams. That is an active process of movement of impressions which we have had during the day, and we metabolize those experiences, and now they're coming out in these disjointed pieces of information which we don't need to attach to. Of course, as you know from your experiences, that dreams are many different kinds. This is one dream which I'm talking about, is the vata dream, where these disjointed pieces of information are being taken out of your consciousness so that they don't retain inside the body. Just like the feces and the urine and the sweat is the same way, the impressions from the sight, sound, smell, emotions are all expelled out of the uh, body. And during this time, there is a movement of waste products from the cellular metabolism, which is then taken by the body, by through the blood, into the colon, into the bladder, and into the skin. Three organs where we remove the waste products. So Vata period is responsible for movement of waste products, whether they're dreams, whether they're uh, physical waste products called malas in Ayurveda. Now, why is it that people have issue getting up around 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock? Because if their vata is elevated, that's when uh, they will awaken. And there are many situations in which the vata gets elevated. One, I was telling you before we started that we live in a vata society. Our mind has never completely slowed down. So if we look at different stages of sleep, there is a twilight phase of sleep where your physical body is twitching, you're still in between the awake and the sleep state. And then you have a second phase of sleep where your body is silent, but your mind is still active. And third stage in Turiya, you have no mind, no physical activity, and you are totally in presence of the spirit. So the vata is the state of mind which is elevated in these people, and that creates that early awakening. Now, as we get older, in my age group, our sleep becomes preponed. Instead of 10 o'clock, you will see people in my age group start to go to bed at 9 because they are feeling sleepy earlier. In addition to that, the vata in the body is increasing because vata is destructive. Vata is uh, the it it starts to take out waste products and the worn and torn pieces of the body. As we get older, our building is not being rebuilt every day, but the waste products are still going out. So we start losing stuff. That is
Mm.
because of vata. So when we have left a lot of important stuff, then we leave this physical body. Vata is directly responsible to the activity of the destruction of the physical body. The in modern medicine we call it the length of the telomere at the end of the chromosome, which every cell division a piece of telomere is taken, and when telomere is gone, then we don't make any more cells and we leave this body. So vata is the part of the energy within us which leads to uh, uh, catabolism instead of anabolism. Anabolism is building,
Mm.
catabolism is destruction. Or uh, so when vata is increased in the body, that will lead to uh, early awakening in 3 o'clock or so, 2 to 3 o'clock. So that is the main issue.
Mm. There's also another really common symptom that I've listened to people tell me about awakening in that vata period, which is heat, like experiencing extreme heat flashing. Why would that be caused during that vata period?
It's not during vata period. That is more of a pitta balance.
Mm-hmm.
Pitta imbalance will cause increased heat in the body. Though cellular metabolism is taking place at a faster rate, and they will have hot flashes.
Hmm.
They will sweat because all the cells have got too much heat. And
Even if
that
it's
occurs usually
happening
in
at
menopause. When menopause, you see that.
right, but it what I've noticed is it happens after 2 a.m. So it's happening in the vata period, but it's a pitta imbalance.
Yeah, it usually should occur right around 1 to 2 o'clock, because that is the maximum pitta period at that time. And they will get up in the middle of the night totally soaked and having hot flashes.
Mm.
They have to take a cold shower. Cold shower will solve that problem. If they take a cold shower, they come back and go to sleep, they will sleep through the night because there is no more pitta period after that.
Oh, that's a great tip
Yeah,
to just go ahead and get up and take a cold shower.
cold shower. Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent. What about with food? Because I know as a practitioner of Ayurveda, you get asked about food and diet all the time. What foods or practices with eating would be helpful for people to gain more success in their sleeping patterns?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a important thing. Food is very important for a good sleep. So, if you have a food which is grounding, will decrease vata. So,
Can you give
having a
some
little
examples of grounding food?
grounding food will be stews, like soups with a lot of substances in it, a lot of potato, sweet potato, maybe people who eat meat, maybe some meat. So it is a grounding will reduce vata.
Mm.
So, but it is not recommended for everybody because, as you know, kaphas should not have that kind of stew.
Are you calling me Kappa?
I myself belong to
Well,
that
but I think
category.
there are ways to do it
Yeah,
because, with broth and, it doesn't have to be full of sweet potatoes as much as, of course,
yeah,
I would love that. But broth with other vegetables and, if you're eating meats. Um,
right. But you can also have a practice which I call sleep hygiene,
let's hear about that.
which will also reduce vata. So, sleep hygiene starts in the kapha period, which is between 6 and 10 in the evening. And uh, as you're going to slumber, which starts around 8 o'clock, so you should have a ritual around sleep. Ritual being no violent movie, no violent novels, no TV as much as possible. Uh, Read, listen to soft music, romantic music, have a bath with some lavender in it, have a candle, and listen to soft music. That will reduce vata. Now, doing a self massage with sesame oil will also reduce the vata. So,
Mm.
these are some of the things people can do to relieve that waking up early at 3 o'clock. They have to start the sleep hygiene before 10 o'clock so that at 10 o'clock they are in bed, sleep. So they have to go to bed at quarter to 10, sleep at 10 o'clock. For that, they need to start their ritual at 9 o'clock latest. So that,
What about the people who work the shifts that go beyond 10 or the graveyard shift in the night? What can we do to help them?
uh, change your job.
So these periods, the periods replicate during the day. There's two sets of the Kapha Pitta Vata times of day, and they correlate. And yes, with changing the clocks, it's an approximation because the clocks are not necessarily set to our local biology, but take it with, within the parameters. But I wonder, like, I have a close friend. who's a hospice nurse, bless her heart, really going through what we're going through in the world right now. And
Hmm.
she has been working nighttime shift forever. And I wonder, what is this doing to her body and her health?
So imagine that when you are going against nature, who loses?
No, yeah, you do, of course.
You lose.
Nature's going to win.
I will tell you my experience of working with night shift nurses for 45 years. I experienced that every single person who worked night shift,
Hmm.
and remind me why it is called graveyard shift. I'll tell you a
Right?
story about it.
Yeah. I'm starting to see why.
Okay. So every one of them within 20 years developed high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity, stroke, every single one of them, regardless of their
Whoa. Whoa,
constitution.
whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's just take a moment on that. That's every single one of these people developed issues. That I feel in my body when you tell me that. It's like that but somebody's got to do it,
Well,
we've got
I was
people they're taking
young
care
people
of.
should do it. They should have first 10 years of your life should be night shift. And then, people continue to do this because they get a higher pay. It's not worth it. Take it from me. It is not worth it.
Wow, that's really good advice, VJ.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but you're saying when you're younger, you can put that stress on yourself and handle it for a period of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it seems that we should be setting things up so that we're more supportive of everybody's bodies.
Let me tell you the story of why it
Okay.
is called graveyard shift.
Oh, I want to hear this. Yes.
So in 15th, 16th centuries, when a person would die, the relatives will didn't know whether they're alive or dead. They were unconscious, so they didn't know all the techniques of checking whether they're alive or dead. So they will put the body on the dining table, and they will sit around and drink, and that's how the tradition of wake started. So you wake, watch. If he wakes up, then he's alive. Okay. So during that time, they used to bury people, and they when they opened those graves up because there was shortage of grave sites, they found that there were scratches inside of the
Oh,
because they buried some people alive.
I didn't know we were getting into ghost stories. That's when they started putting bells
Yes,
and
they started putting
they would
bells,
attach the
and
thread.
somebody had to be there uh, at night if the bell was rung.
Right,
So
and that's saved by the bell.
that was called the graveyard shift.
Right. Yeah, and that's how we got the term saved by the bell.
Yeah, saved by the bell.
It
Yes,
wasn't at school, everybody.
right.
Woo, I didn't know we were going morbid on this one. Um, so, and then other things that I find helpful, I definitely have used myself and create for others, like guided meditations to help use some techniques of yoga nidra and hypnosis, so that you can give the mind something to pay attention to that will soothe you and gently drop you off into sleep.
So
uh,
that is a vata reducing techniques. Alternate
so
nostril
this is
breathing.
why in a Vata society, could we say the reason why guided meditation has just exploded and become so much more popular, and everybody is trying to figure out a way to teach it. There are specific techniques, and I think if you combine it with hypnosis techniques, it's even better for
Yep,
this. But in a
absolutely.
in a vata dominant society, doesn't it make sense that anything that calms vata is going to begin to become
And your
popular.
technique of yoga nidra combines breathing, hypnosis, psychotherapy, all of them combined into one technique.
Yeah.
So there are people who have developed yoga nidra for sleep.
Hmm.
Yoga nidra is not meant for sleep. Yoga nidra is a meditation technique,
Right.
but it can be used because of its techniques of breathing and reduction of vata as a tool to go to sleep.
Ah, and that's exactly what I combined in my
Mhm.
course in End Sleep Envy. I've got pranayama techniques. I've got my personal environmental hacks that over the years of trial and error I've developed. Body practices like going out for a long walk every day, which I know you love doing too. And I enjoy when I get the chance to do it with you. Um, the media, what you mentioned about media, in all the years of coaching clients, I one of the first things I ask them when they seem disturbed or distressed, any kind of stress, I ask them, what kind of media are you participating in? What are you watching? What are you reading? Um, you said take it away at a certain hour. I think get rid of it totally. If it's not feeding your happiness, why are you putting so much energy in it? And I think this is what takes us from what we should really be focusing on to what we're focusing on that we can't control.
Right.
I recently was listening to one of my favorite teachers, Lisa Nichols, and she brought up a point about most people are focusing 80% of their attention on things they can't do anything about, things they can't change, and 20% of their time and energy on what they can change. So when we can start to put 80% or more on what we can change, like what we're eating, what we're reading, what we're watching, what we're doing with our free time, this is when we can begin to let go of the stress. But I understand too, we all go through periods of incredible stress and we get reactive to it and re-reactive to it. Um, do you have any suggestions about how to refocus to these things? What do you tell your clients when they come to you with a lot of stress and valid things that if you put yourself in their position, you would feel the stress? I mean, what do you say to people like that or offer to them, VJ?
Right. So stress is unavoidable. How you make your body immune to that is what is the question. Because things, stress is caused by things turning out to be different than what we expected. Okay. That is the definition of stress. When things are not going according to our expectation. So number one, have no expectation. That's not easy.
No.
Number two is make yourself immune to what is going on around you. See, the world around you is going to change constantly. People are going to do things which you don't like. Things are going to go unexpected ways. You have no control. You have no control beyond the margins of your skin in your body. That's it. Your whole circle of influence is around your body. That's it. You have no control over your parents, your children, your husband, your wife, your co-workers, the nation, the politics, the president. You have no control over anyone.
Yeah.
Okay. The sooner you understand that and implement that in your thought process, that I have no control over what happens to outside of me. I have control over what happens to me.
Mm.
And that is what I'm talking about, that I become less reactive to what is happening outside.
That's so great. If we could all create just a simple mantra, a saying to remind ourselves that we don't control that and to bring ourselves back into this is what I'm responsible for. This is what I can make a change in. I think that's a really beautiful reminder.
Right. And that is the only thing we have is how do we create our mind so that it is not continuously going outside and looking for answers. We do alternate nostril breathing. We do hypnosis. We do whatever we do is to stay centered within ourselves.
Exactly. Being, understanding what it feels like to be centered and grounded. And I also in teaching, because as you know, I am ongoing teaching. I'm actually teaching people to tune into their intuition, to their own birthright psychic abilities through understanding first the senses. And it blows my mind how many people are disconnected from 3 out of 5 gross senses. Maybe they're connected to 3, but most of them only 2. And then when they start to realize this, I've seen a shift that then they become more sensitive to the subtleties of meditation. So I've learned to teach tuning into these abilities through meditation, but being able to meditate by tuning into these abilities. And I find that that's where, we yogis, we talk about choiceless awareness. I feel like when we're more in touch with our senses, then we have a greater ease in disconnecting from the reactions that these senses cause. Do you
Right.
agree?
And the disconnection is the most important part. There, on an average, if I'm looking outside, I've got million pieces of information in front of me. I choose to bring only 4 or 5 because that's all I can manage. If that is causing stress, then I need to close my eyes. I'm done. There's no more input into the eyes. If I've got a music which is loud and obnoxious, I put a earplug in my ears. So I'm giving this as an example that we are in control of what we bring into the body. And we need to develop that intuition, what we should bring and what we should not bring. News fast, one of the best ways to cut down on the amount of input coming into your body through the sight.
Yeah, news fasting, definitely. And just improper media. I mean, really, everybody can identify what would be healthier and what would probably not have good positive effects on the body and mind. So I think that's huge. But then we still have to figure out how to function in society. So I know it's an ongoing process for everybody, but little tiny steps make big differences.
And then you got other culinary things you can do to help in sleep. We know that milk releases tryptophan when it is warmed.
But so, what about people that don't drink or eat dairy? Yeah,
I'll talk about that.
Okay.
But people who do drink dairy, which nobody should, but
then why are we talking about it?
Well, just because I said don't drink it, people are not going to say I don't drink it.
Right.
So if you boil the milk and let it cool down, boil it with cardamom and little ginger and little black pepper and little clove and a half a teaspoon of ghee. If you put all of that and boil that milk, let it cool down and drink that milk, that will produce tryptophan and give you a good night, peaceful sleep. people who do not drink milk, which should be everybody, uh, should do it with coconut milk, or have a um, turmeric latte. You can make
Mm.
a paste out of turmeric and coconut milk, and make a paste out of it with some black pepper, with some a little coconut oil, and make a paste with some black pepper, coconut oil, little cardamom, little clove, and make a paste, and then put it in the refrigerator and take 1 teaspoon of that paste, and pour coconut milk on it, and drink it before going to bed. That's a
Mm.
turmeric latte, which is very good for reducing vata and putting you to sleep.
Would it work with almond milk or another kind of
Hmm.
nut milk? Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. Great. So that's an excellent alternative.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you getting together with me today. I think this has been a really fascinating
Now,
discussion.
of
People
course,
are going to get a lot out of it.
we've got a lot of herbal formulas for that, but we'll leave it for
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see
consultation.
if there's questions, and then we could
Yeah.
always come back together and talk more about it. I just
Okay.
want to thank you so much for getting together with me today, Vijay. Um, Vijay and I wrote a book called Unfolding Happiness, which is an introduction to Ayurveda, and I'll make sure that links are available wherever this video is posted. Thank you so much, Vijay.
You're
It's
welcome, and
always
it
a
was
treasure to be
pleasure
with you.
joining you. It was a pleasure joining you.